Right, I call me to order. I join me in the budget meetings. Okay, under proclamations, we have none, so we'll move on to public comments. Aaron, if you want to come up and give us the library update. Right,
Thank you. Well, I know it's been a few months since I've been here, and of course, we all of 2024 wrapped up for statistics. I'm not going to read everything to you guys because I would never leave. But yes, in the packets that I had handed out to you guys.
Right down in the parking lot.
Anyhow, the first page is something I put together for highlights from last year. The second page is what the state generates after we submit our annual report with all of our statistics. And then the next several pages that are kind of split in half. That's something we keep up every year to compare through since 2019 for some of our different statistics. And then I included our Friends of the Library annual letter. They have an annual meeting coming up, so I thought it was nice to include that for them. And then after that is just my general report that looks the same as I usually give. So some of our highlights from last year are, well, one, we were awarded the Chamber's Organization of the Year at their annual dinner, so that was really nice. Updates. Our staff and trustees worked tirelessly to provide our community with essential services, and to be recognized for our efforts was encouraging and rewarding. So that was definitely a highlight for 2024 to be recognized for our efforts over the year. And then after that, we had over 19,000 people came to the library in total last year. We had over 34,000 items checked out, both digital and physical. And we had 1,200 use of public computers, 2,100 uses of Wi-Fi sessions, people connecting to our Wi-Fi, 500 programs, 5,400 people attended those programs. And we also keep track of things, we call it our value of services and value of materials. So each month we keep track of statistics to show how much a book might cost to somebody, and then how many times that book was checked out, plus how much it would cost somebody to attend, say, a program, or how much it would cost somebody to use one of our mobile hotspots if they had to pay for internet. We add all that up and we show how much free stuff that the library offers over the year and how that contributes and everything like that. So the total for 2024 was just over $1 million of value of services, and we also keep track of how much we receive in tax money. So based on how much we received last year, Hiawatha as a whole saw a social return of $5.04 per $1 invested. If you really want to see all the math on that, I'd be happy to show it to you because I do like the spreadsheets, but otherwise that's just kind of an overview of some of the stats that we like to keep and how we can kind of keep track of how we're doing, what we can provide and where we can fill in for services needed. We got several grants over the year. We kept track of meeting room reservations, so we've had 882 different reservations for our 3 different meeting room spaces. We saw over 1,000 people difference in how many people attended our summer library program activities. We got our elevator modernization completed, which was a long time coming, so that was really great to get that all finalized. And a lot of other things that, again, we'll try not to forget everything, but anyhow, so a lot of the other statistics that we have in there, you're welcome to go over, and you can contact me for any questions, but those are a lot of the highlights that we had over the year of 2024. And so since the last time I was here, I'll just let you guys keep those papers and read them at your leisure. But for the rest of my report, the other thing is on behalf of the trustees and myself, we would also like to thank the city for taking on our snow removal. We did not anticipate having almost 18 inches for the first time. You guys would have to come out and deal with a brand new place to scoop snow, but we really do appreciate it. It's really a wonderful thing that you guys can help do for us. And other than that, we had over 90 people come to our community art show reception in January. We invited members of the public, both in school and anyone at all, to bring in art pieces they wanted to show off. And we had over 90 people come through and look at everything. So we had items from all 3 schools in town. Somebody brought in quilts that they had helped make and other arts that they did. Aunt Pugh makes cards, and I have them over the last 20 so years. I just put out over beautiful cards. We started our family game nights last fall, and they were successful, and so we had them for the spring. And our next bingo is tomorrow at 5:30. And we have our travel club with Jim Tower that resumes next Tuesday. Rainbow Tech Topics that will return April 1st at noon. And then the last thing I have is that just an update on our next large building project. We have Yankee guttering on the library that is in need of repair. It's causing some damage on one of our interior walls. And so we have started raising some money. Our Friends of the Library has committed to raising up to $50,000 for the project, and they're almost halfway to that goal since the Hiawatha Community Foundation match event last year. And so we're going through and looking at different grants. And because they're Yankee guttering, which I've had to learn a lot about, that is a specialty type of guttering. So we're still looking into other who can work on it in general. But yeah, so that's what we're working on now for that. And then of course the Friends annual meeting is Tuesday, April 15th. It'll be at the library. Victoria Jelks, who is a Horton High junior, she went to the National Poetry Out Loud Championships in DC for 2 years in a row and won as representing Kansas. And so she will come that evening and share stories about the competitions and perform some of her poetry. I had a lot of so if you talk fast, so if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Replacing the guttering or just fixing
Well,
areas?
I believe we do need to replace them. We had unroot guttering come out maybe 2 years ago now, year and a half. And how he described it was the last time the roof was worked on, the work that should have been done was kind of band-aided and pushed on a little bit. And so at this point, the best course of action would be to replace them. We could just fix them, but he recommended going ahead and replacing them. And what I understand for Yankee guttering is that they're designed to blend in with the roof line. And so you have to peel back a layer of the roofing tile and really dig into it to do that. And we have a couple of small spots on our chimney flashing and a couple other spots to replace for the roof.
So do you know what that, do you have an estimate?
The estimate we got about, I want to say it was a year and a half ago, it was about 140,000 for the work he proposed. I can only imagine it's gone up. But that was for several spots in the roof and the guttering itself.
So do you have to replace it with the Yankee guttering?
I mean, I don't think we have to. So the library, it is a Carnegie library originally, but because of how much work has been done to the building, it's not like we can't be on a register, historical register or anything because we've done so much work. So we don't have those hoops to jump through specifically. But the first thing we've looked into is the same style to replace it. We're not sure what it would look like otherwise, but yeah, that's what we've looked into.
Any other questions? Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. A very detailed report. It's good to see, and it's exciting to see how, our library is doing a lot. So
Yeah, and we're gearing up for summer. It's color your world, I believe, is the theme for this coming summer, and so we've already started planning for everything. But
we're not that far away.
no, we're not. Thank you.
Okay, next, I believe we would like to recognize one of our employees who's been here for 5 years, Brad Stephen Morgan. If you'd like to come on up here. I should have Stacy here saying all kinds of things about you, but all set up, but Brad's got to jump in. He's got anything he wants to add.
So I have had the pleasure of working with Brad Stephen Morgan for the past 5 years. And I've been able to work with him. I know that there's been a lot of improvements, especially the way that the grass out there Green Park was. He's done a lot of tremendous things out there as far as upgrades to the fields. Just a very valuable employee altogether. Brings a lot of skills to the table. I know we utilize his welding skills quite a bit as a city as well, and get his recommendations on quite a few different projects that we have going on. But he's also more than willing to jump in and snow removal, for example, whether it's on sidewalks, whether it's on the streets, he's more than willing to jump in on anything. Just a great employee to work with, and like I said, it's been my pleasure over these last 5 years.
Brad, thank you very much. Maybe the cheese picture too. Appreciate it. I mean, done.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay, nothing under old business, so we'll move on to new. The industrial revenue bond public hearing. Brad?
Yes, we have Kevin Callan, and he is on Zoom today. I will turn this over to him at this point.
Oh, I completely skipped the consent agenda. Going back up for a second.
Hang on, let's back up.
Sorry, just kidding, you guys aren't coming on yet. So, skip right past the consent agenda. Is there anything you need to add to that, Brad?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Move a second to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Not done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Now, back to what you're saying, Brad, about the industrial revenue bond public hearing.
Yeah, so we are picking the public hearing back up. We had adjourned it at a previous meeting. And at this point, I'll turn that over to Kevin Callan.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Hold on, Kevin, I can't hear you.
What about now? Can you hear me? Ben, can you hear me?
I can hear him fine. I don't know. Can you hear me there? Or is it just Kevin that you can't hear?
Maybe both of us. Can you hear me now?
It was on my side, sorry.
Okay, but you can hear me now, okay?
Yes.
We can't hear you, yes.
Okay. Good. I have to comment, the last 2 meetings I've attended were very, very cold, and I'm looking at the bright sunshine behind you, and it makes me jealous tonight. But so the hearing tonight, as Brad referenced, we had called for it in January, and then we did open the hearing at a meeting in February, but adjourned it to this meeting, and that allowed a little more time to have a cost benefit analysis prepared and get things in order that needed to be in order for you to consider a property tax abatement. So what I had in mind in terms of how this could flow, and I think Brad had and maybe has shared with you the cost benefit analysis, and I can go over some high points, but I thought maybe you could open the hearing and see if there's any public comment or questions, and if not, then maybe we have a discussion of the cost benefit analysis, and you can close the hearing, and then we can take whatever action is appropriate.
Or I'd like
And-
to make a motion, I'm sorry, anything else? Didn't mean to
No.
interrupt.
Nope.
I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for the industrial revenue bond issue.
I'll
Chris?
second it.
Been moved and seconded, any further discussion? Not done?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. I'd like to open it up for any public comment. Hearing none, then Don, do we just close?
Yeah, I think you can. I mentioned maybe you keep it open and we have a discussion of the cost benefit analysis. I don't know if that would generate any public comment thereafter, but I mean, either way is fine. But I did want to spend a moment on the cost benefit analysis.
Yes, please do so.
Okay, so if you have it in front of you or if you don't have it in front of you, the cost benefit analysis was generated last week by Wichita State University, their Center for Economic Development and Business Research. They do a number of these. Cost benefit analysis is required by statute. It wasn't always, and I don't know how long it's been now, probably 20 years or something, but it is required. It doesn't statutorily have to show any results in particular. It could be a terrible cost benefit analysis and you could still approve a property tax abatement. It could be a wonderful cost benefit analysis and you could still reject a tax abatement, but it has to exist. It has to be part of your consideration. So in this case, on the first page, there's a summary of the inputs, and on the left, there's what's called the firm summary box, and it shows number of new jobs over a 10-year period, 20-year period, the amount of payroll associated with that, the amount of capital investment, which is a current thing. And again, measured over 10 years and 20 years, there was a time when most of these cost benefit analyses only measured a 10-year period, which was the period of the costs if you grant an abatement. And I'm glad that they started showing the 20 years because, and I mentioned this to Brad as we were discussing, is you're not interested probably in providing incentives for a 10-year investment and being in the community as a business for 10 years. You want to get something over the long haul, so to speak. And so that's kind of the post 10-year period where they run it out to the 20 years. So the other thing I would mention on the first page, the impact summary just to the right of what I was just discussing, and that shows both initial activity during construction, and there will be some construction workers there that are working, and they have some multipliers that they'll eat lunch in town, various things. So they want to show how many people are going to be working and what will the payroll be as you're paying them. And as you see below there, the jobs and the earnings multipliers then drive some other of their calculations. And then the firm is just, this is what we're going to do over the 10 and 20 year periods. If we have one new employee because of this, the payroll will be 458,000 over 10 years, and over 20 years, $1 million. And so again, those are the inputs. When they input that, then they have a spreadsheet and formula that will then generate the cost benefit analysis. And, you could look at this in a lot of different ways, but I like to focus on the bottom of page 2 of 14. That'll be the top of page 3 of 14, which is a summary of all of the ratios of the benefits to cost. So if you look at that, it's grouped as the city of Hiawatha based on its mill levy, the Brown County, its mill levy, state of Kansas, which is interesting. There is a mill levy there. There's a move afoot in the legislature to terminate that. So that may end up being a zero over the 10 or 20 year period in whole or in part. But then the school district and then any other special district, if you had a community college or some other taxing district overlay. So for the city, the present value of the net benefits shown is $143,000. And those benefits are going to be having a new employee, as I mentioned earlier, and they're going to have a payroll and they're going to spend money in town and presumably live in town. Some of those things are, again, baked into the multipliers. They may have a family that will add, a student or more to the school district, and per pupil funding will go up. So those are all of the things that are considered when they start talking about benefits. So the present value of the net benefits over the 10 years, 143,243 over 20 years. But then if you get to the bottom, and the ratio is probably more useful or more of a nutshell than anything else, the benefit to cost ratio is a little more than 2, as you see there over the 10-year period, because it shows your public costs, the cost of the abatement at $115,000. And then the 20-year, which, as I mentioned, is maybe even a more useful consideration. You've capped your costs after 10 years, so the cost of the abatement. So through 20 years, the costs remain the same, and then you're going to show more. You see the public benefits from 258 through 10 years to 358 through the 20-year period, and again, your costs are the same. So you're going to have a higher ratio, that 3.11. And I don't need to go through each of these in detail, but you can see going across there that each of the taxing subdivisions does show a positive cost or benefit to cost ratio. The 2.08 over 10 years for Brown County, 2.83 over 20. State of Kansas usually has a really strong ratio because the abatement amount is so small. Their mill levy has been so small. And then the school district also shows the positive benefit to cost ratio, the 2.19 and 2.97. Last thing I wanted to mention in that regard is we talk about the abatement, and it's not a 100% abatement. The school district capital outlay levy, which is 8 mills or thereabouts, is protected, and that's just part of the school finance legislation of the last number of years. So will not be 100% property tax abatement. That 8 mills is considered in these ratios where it shows that the school district has the positive ratio, and they'll get a little more benefit than maybe the other taxing subdivisions because that 8 mills is protected. So I'll stop there in terms of discussing the cost benefit analysis. Did you have any questions? And Ben, if I missed something that you want to highlight, and Ben Bigham, who's counsel for the hotel, is online as well. And so any questions or comments from anybody at this point?
I'll step in and add comments once the city council is ready to. Just, I have a couple of things to add to what Kevin said, but appreciate your time and stand here for questions unless you all want me to say my piece, and then we go to questions.
How long has the hotel been in town?
I believe it was, to me, I think it was constructed in 2011. I have to look back at my notes. It's 2011 or 2014. I'm leaning it was 2011, I had to guess. Between those, I have to look at my notes.
Was it the first 10 years you had the tax abatement, correct?
Correct. So the clarification I would add to Kevin's comment, I went back and forth with the CBA, Wichita State, who drafted the CBA. So, we're using the term 100% abatement here. That's not, I mean, it's entirely correct when you look at the value of what's being put into the CBA, but in terms of what's actually happening with the hotel project, it's not effectively 100% tax abatement. So whatever taxes exist on the hotel today, those are going to be paid moving forward. Those are unaffected by this, call it 100% abatement that's being put in place for the $1.2 million investment being made into the hotel to renovate it, to improve the interior of it, to buy updated fixtures and whatnot for the hotel. So it's what's really happening is, say that I'm going to make up round numbers just for the purpose of discussion. If the hotel's appraised valuation today is $3 million, for the next 10 years, that $3 million valuation is not going to increase to reflect that $1.2 million investment being made. It's just going to increase from, Kevin and I will still discuss it, but some type of annual escalator, which we typically build into these types of abatement structures. And the goal of this is to just give my client, the Best Western operator, an opportunity to understand, exactly what his tax liability will be today and moving forward for the next 10 years, which gives him certainty and an understanding of how to budget and, monitor that hotel, which then will allow him to, we've discussed with the city, investing more into the community and potentially expanding to the east on that property there. So that's the clarification I wanted to add. It's not really a 100% abatement of the entire hotel. It's just on this improvement work being completed, it would be abating that improvement work and fixing the value that it is today. That's all I had, and here for any more questions.
Yeah, and I'm glad Ben mentioned that. And I think we touched on this in January, but the idea is the hotel, as constructed 10 plus years ago with a property tax abatement on the original construction, is coming back on the tax rolls. The city's getting the benefit of that bargain. It's not an extension of the original tax abatement, and the goal is to only have an abatement, as Ben has articulated, on the improvements, this new investment, so that you all can count on hotel, probably the bulk of the value is coming back on as planned, and this is just for the improvements going forward.
10 years pretty much the standard, because a lot can change in 10 years versus say 5.
It is the maximum. So 0 to 10 years are the options, and anything in between, and so to answer your question, it could be 10 years or less statutorily.
And so the abatement's only on the 1.2 million.
Correct. And Ben mentioned this, and I know he followed up with Wichita State, and you see in that firm summary that I mentioned on the front page to the left, it shows the amount of capital investment is 1.2. So that's the driver of what's the improvement? What are you constructing? If it was a brand new building and it was a $1.2 million investment, you get similar numbers, but you'd understand, well, this is the entire building. And this was limited to just the improvements to the existing building. And I don't remember what it cost. I mean, many multiples of the 1.2, but the cost benefit analysis does, again, specifically only analyze based on the $1.2 million rehabilitation, remodeling investment.
Next 10 years, they'll be tax appraised at whatever it is now. That's what they're asking. So, my standpoint on this has been from the beginning that I'm not in favor of doing this, just because there's nothing written. When you guys come to town and you build something, that is offered to everybody. Anybody can get that abatement, and anybody that wants to come in, it's a no-brainer, it's a done deal. This is a total different deal, so in my opinion, anybody could be asking for this, and where do you draw the line is my problem. And especially with taxes going up for everybody, including my own tremendously, everybody is having to pay their fair share, and this hotel hasn't hardly been paying taxes since they've been in town. So that's my take on it. And in 10 years, that hotel could easily be worth three times the amount of what it is now. We have another years, and then it lasts 5 or 6 years. So without a question, 10 years is, I would definitely say no. But I've not been in favor for this from the beginning, just because if there's anybody that asks for this moving forward, how do you say yes or no to them?
I mean, I think that's something that there's no black and white on this. I think it has to look at what another business wants to do. If they want to come in and go through the same process and put all the work into it, I think we absolutely look at it. I also think we need to look at the fact that this business coming in is looking at perhaps even expanding or bringing more in. So if all we have to do is the 1.2, I mean, because we're gonna start getting the taxes on that 3 million. I mean, the number that he said, I know that's not exact. So I'm okay if this is gonna encourage improvement and maybe more after that.
If I may.
Yes.
The one point I was going to add is, Kevin and I will work through it. I mentioned it when I was talking earlier, but there will, we won't freeze it at exactly what it is today. Typically with these agreements, there's some type of, annual escalator, and that would be Kevin and I discussing, what's acceptable in this county of how property appreciates, over a 10-year period. So, we try and bake that in, and we view it as, beneficial to both, my client, the hotel operator, because they can budget moving forward with a known tax payment coming. And then also it helps in, in a lot of cases, the city as well. And, the taxing jurisdictions, because they can budget around that known figure, moving forward. So that's the only point I'd add, is it wouldn't be, say it's 3 million. It's not going to be 3 million for the next 10 years. It'd be 3 million in year one. And then, let's just pick a percentage, 1%, it would go to 3 million and, 90,000 the next year, and so on and so forth. It would keep growing at that rate. That's the one point I want to add. So appreciate everybody's comments and here for questions, of course.
So we need that hotel to still be a nice hotel, so people will still be willing to come in and stay. And if it starts to deteriorate, then
That's where it's probably just as it is, anybody else in town to maintain and adjust for these expenditures. I mean, every other town is not, or every other company in town is not subsidized. And that's what we're doing, is subsidizing a hotel for another 10 years. It's not fair to anybody else that has a business in town to do this. And if you start having everybody come in and ask, that's a big chunk of your tax revenue in a year. And you can't say, well, it's not black and white. It is black and white. Once you let one person do it, you have to let everybody do it. And that's just the facts of it. You can't come in here and say, well, I don't feel you need it, but I think you need it. You open the door once, you give it to everyone.
but we have to look at what the impact is on the town. I mean, how much money are they gonna bring in as we continue to make the improvements? I do think it's a case by case basis. I just do, it kind of depends. And like I said, any business who's gonna go through the extent that you have to do to get this benefit, then we would have to look at it. But it's not something you just wake up tomorrow and say, oh, I think I want a 50,000 improvement on my business out here. I think I'm gonna go see if I can get a break on it. I don't think we're gonna see a rash of people rushing in to do this.
It's because a lot of people don't want to do it. They don't,
Yeah,
they don't feel comfortable doing it. But there will be other hotels that would be very beneficial by this too as well.
And if that helps our city grow, I'm all for it. I mean,
Well,
it's
we
a
can't
give and
continue
take.
to raise taxes every year and give people breaks, because what you're doing is you're raising every resident's taxes in town and then giving big companies that are making business and they're making money in town and they're leaving town with the money even in some circumstances. And we're giving them a tax break, but my taxes go up 50,000. So you have to be careful with what we're doing here.
I'm also looking at these numbers right in front of me that shows the benefits that we can get from this.
Can you show them what they are?
And
Besides less tax
that's what
revenue?
these
I mean,
gentlemen.
honestly,
No, like I said, that's what these gentlemen are for.
I know, but this doesn't show me that there's any benefit. We're not adding any employees. There's a possibility of one employee added. And there's nothing here. I'm sorry. But if you see something else that I am not seeing, please enlighten me.
I can talk too here. We, not necessarily me directly, but our client Jack, he's been a participant of the community, talking with Brad multiple times, discussing this kind of project. And he's a proud business owner here and has a land, it's on the same parcel here. He's got I think it's about an acre and a half or so to the east of this hotel. And he's, going through the market study process, kind of looking at, potentially putting a second hotel here. And, Jack has discussed with with Brad a little bit that, we're evaluating and looking at the market and trying to make make a decision to, put a second hotel on this, 1.5 acre parcel, that vacant land right there next to it to the east. And, understand the tax bill moving forward and just the, how to allocate expenses and making sure he has some level of certainty moving forward with this hotel. I mean, it's something that can, really, add jet fuel to the possibility of getting a hotel here. And I think, we want to do everything on our end to be a good partner to the city and, bring business to the city. And from my understanding, this hotel's been a great addition to the city, and Jack's excited to, try and work out something more here. And this would be a big step in making that happen. The PC that's already been approved, that project exemption certificate, has gone a long way in terms of, bolstering that and making this a potential. So just want to make sure that, not only looking at it from the perspective of the cost benefit, which Kevin walked through really detailed and, explained the benefits of this structure to the city, but also thinking, of the potential for expansion, like the discussion has been happening between you all. So I appreciate it. And again, any questions here, just let me know. Thank you.
Do you know what it is for 1 year? What it would be, how much in the first year that they would be getting? It says total 138,000. Is that over 10 years?
It is a couple of pages deeper. It shows specifically per year on page, what is it? Page 4, kind of some bar graphs. Now it doesn't show, it shows the value of the benefits with a dollar amount, but doesn't show the dollar amount of the cost, which would be the property taxes. And that's cumulative. If you're looking at the bar graph, the present value of net benefits, where it grows over time. So you'd maybe have to look at the ratio to the left of that and try to make some back of the napkin calculations. That is on a year by year basis. So if in year 1, the present value of the net benefits is 20,000, and in year 1 they're showing that the ratio is 2.5, then that's like an $8,000 cost, I guess, that first year in abated taxes. And that may be a partial year. So that's, unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything where it shows year by year what that would be. You could divide the total.
What I'm looking at is if it's $138,000 for 10 years, we're roughly looking at,
yes,
around $12,000 a year that this hotel needs basically to be able to expand. Is that what you're saying? Because
well, yeah, that may
may
be more of a Ben question, but I was going to say that's maybe the best approximation if you're trying to get a per year amount, is to take that raw number of the 138 you were looking at and divide it by 10.
Yeah, and it's not only that, like Kevin said, it's the it's the money of the value. I mean, these feasibility studies, I don't know the exact number. They can be, decently expensive, but it's also just, like I said, the certainty of it. It's understanding and being able to forecast moving forward. If you can budget moving forward, you can, look at, at your, I guess your 10-year picture a lot more clearly than if you don't know what your tax bill will be moving forward. And like we said, if we build this schedule where it's, year 1, again, using round numbers here, I'm not quoting the exact valuation of the hotel. Dave, it's $3 million this year. We know in year 2, the valuation of the hotel will be $3.1 million a year. I'm just, again, making up round numbers for purposes of discussion, but it's making unknowns knowns to where, the operator here can look at his financial picture, talk to his finance team, and really evaluate this site and make sure that, because uncertainty is a risk in evaluating whether to move forward with the project, and the more uncertainty we can remove from the equation, the more sure and the more confident we can be with making a decision that's good for the community and good for the business owner too, which is ultimately what everyone's trying to do in these private-public partnerships.
I guess I'm just looking at it's $12,000 a year. That's not a drop in the bucket for what you guys are wanting to do. And that's a big expense to our employees when we just had 30% hike in health insurance, and all these guys just went to a $7,000 deductible basically to comp for it. So we're giving hits to our employees, but we're gonna give these guys $12,000 a year. So that's,
Do we have to do it for 10 years? Because 10 years is a max, can we do it for less?
You can, as I mentioned earlier, statutorily, you can do 0, up to 10, and anything in between.
And yeah, if we don't have a conclusion here as a group, I've talked to Kevin, we're not necessarily a sprint. These improvements are happening for the next, till the end of the year at least. So we can always, talk about this at another meeting if we need to, and I can have discussions with city, each of you individually if I need to. Our client can reach out and talk through how this helps him and, how this helps the prospect of another, future hotel there. I'm happy to do that too. Just want to make sure everybody's making an informed decision what's best in the community. But obviously, if we can reach a conclusion here today, happy to move forward too. But just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that and has all the resources they need and can reach out to me if they need to.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. It's a good point that the hearing and the cost benefit analysis were prerequisites to making a decision and granting a property tax abatement. But as Ben has pointed out, you don't have to take action tonight. If you'd like to discuss it further, analyze it more, you will still have accomplished, check the box. We've done what the statute requires us to do before we make a decision. And now we can make a decision at a later date if you're more comfortable with that.
Does the county and the school district also have to approve this?
They do not. Again, by statute, they have to have notice of this, and they do, of the hearing and of the consideration of a property tax abatement. But if somebody from the county or the school district showed up and was vociferously objecting, that's all they can do. There aren't any veto rights or anything like that, which is a little different than a couple of our other economic development incentives, including tax increment finance. But they do have notice, but they don't have an ability to veto with a legal right that's built into the statutes.
And we are about to start getting the taxes from the initial project, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I think it came out of the tax roll this year to answer that question, I believe.
Well, I'd have to agree with Brian. I don't agree with the tax abatement on the improvements.
I do not either. I like having a nice hotel, but this city needs funds to run as well. Because we have a lot of things that are coming due.
Yeah, I just think looking at the totality of the circumstances. I mean, Brian brought up a lot of good points, as did Becky. But ultimately, when I look at everything in totality, I won't vote for the tax abatement.
And what is this probably, complete, would it be 10 years? Or if we were to look at having a discussion, if we were to reduce that time, is that a possibility?
Yeah, to answer that question, I'd have to talk with my client, the owner and operator of the hotel, to flesh it out for you. But yeah, it sounds like we could, I could go talk to my team, and then he could reach out to anyone. I know he's pretty involved, and I talked to Brad multiple times, so he could, we could set up meetings, we could do anything to really just talk through the necessity of this from our side.
Just listening to that.
I'm just not interested. I think that they've got their 10-year gift, and I think that's good enough for me now.
I wouldn't change my mind.
Not at this point.
Okay, then.
Close the hearing first. Second, right?
This one,
Yes.
or all of this?
Yeah, well, that second paragraph.
I, Commissioner Shepherd, then move that the city pursuant to the provisions of KSA 79201.4 and the project to the extend purchase or constructed with the proceeds of the bonds should be exempt from payment of ad valorem property taxes for 10 years commencing with the year following the year in which the bonds are issued, provided proper application is made therefore, and provided no exemption may be granted from the ad valorem property tax levy by a school district pursuant to those provisions of KSA 7253.113 and the amendments thereto, and B, for the uses restricted pursuant to the provisions of KSA 79201A, 2nd and 24th.
Not voting in favor of that.
Right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Brian, any further discussion? If not, Don?
All in favor?
No, that's,
Approve this or deny it?
It's denied.
This is the motion he made was to approve.
Oh.
So, correct?
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Correct.
The
I was
motion
trying to
he
read
made,
it as I was reading it.
yeah, the motion he made was to approve this, and so that's the motion that's on the floor right now.
so if you vote aye, then we just.
Okay, so I don't want to vote aye then.
What?
Somebody will take.
Motion and second, on the motion and second on the floor.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm just completely
No,
confused.
the motion on the floor, that's just how you vote.
And voting no to their tax abatement is a nay vote to this motion.
Correct.
I've never had to do that before, make a motion and then vote against it, so that's why I'm a little confused. So let's just make sure that that's a clear thing now, that this motion, even though I made it, if we're voting
I'll do a roll call.
that, is that
I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Tolleson. Commissioner Middendorf.
Aye.
Mayor Shamberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Shepherd.
nay?
Commissioner Martin.
Nay.
Motion fails 3-2. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then motion to
So the,
go back into.
That was confusing.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and go back into the regular, regular meeting.
I'll second.
Moving to second, any further discussion? Not, Don?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
So we pass 5-0. Going into item 2, Evansville Pump, Don? And Ryan.
We gave the analysis on Evans well. Sergeant Drilling was here last week. The screen, they sent down camera, the screen is 90% plugged. That's why our efficiency was down to 51%. Instead of the least it could be is 60. It's our highest producing water well. So, the screen was 90% plugged, and they gave us to fix the existing with the motor, and they sent down, discharges, where they're blasting caps. They blasted the formation. Was $38,116.25 to fix the existing. Now, that motor is, Brad, didn't you say in the 70s?
Before my time, that was Jeff in the 70s.
The motors, we looked at that, there's no reason to. Now, that 38,000 would be another motor, but, we talked about, for 3,000 more, 41,610.63, they put a submersible in there, which now you get rid of all those moving parts. We're always on the sleeve, tightening the sleeve, and the shaft was, I mean, you get rid of all those mechanical parts if we put in submersible for almost 3,000 more. I'll let Ryan.
And then also the submersible pump that comes with the new column, which would be PVC, instead of going back with the steel casing column. So with the PVC, you'll never have to replace it again unless it breaks, basically. And then also with the submersible pump, the time frame, turnaround is 2 weeks faster. So that'd get Evansville back up. And then also if we went to a submersible pump, we'd have a all new pump and motor for Evansville, which that's our big producer for the city of Hiawatha.
Which one is that one? Sorry. So Evans Well would be, if you go out towards 280th Road where Howard Farms is, before you get there, there's 2 wells that sit up on top of that hill. There's kind of just some access road that goes back in there. Evans Well is going to be the furthest one in. So it's going to be the furthest one west of that well. It's not going to be Hansberry Springs, which is along 280, but it's all that. There's 2 wells there together.
So I would like to recommend having Sergeant Drilling come in and do the submersible pump for the city of Hiawatha for $41,610.62.
I would like to point out that this is not an additional $41,000. This is just about I think we had approved somewhere right around $37,000 before. This is about $4,000 on top of that number. So we're not asking for an additional 41,000. We're asking for an additional about 4,000. Sounds like we've done this. That's good.
I'll make a motion to have Sergeant Drilling provide a new submersible pump to repair Evans Well for the amount of $41,610.63.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve Sergeant Drilling to make the necessary repairs. Any further discussion?
I have a question. Is the life of the submersible longer than the non-submersible?
So with the pump we have now, they could rebuild it and it could fail at any time. So the submersible pump is a smarter way to go, is what Sergeant Drilling said. Because they said they could rebuild it and you never know, it could fail again, or the shaft or the moving parts going against the turbine pumps. A lot of people are going away from the turbine pumps, which that's what.
So that shaft goes all the way down there and that
Yeah.
well in that casing.
Yeah. So that's what was also probably causing the pump issue to do, because the packing on it was completely gone. And I talked to him, he said the packing that was put in there was not the correct packing for a water pump to also.
And Commissioner Morton, even on the sewer side, we're trying to get rid of all those standing motors and go to submersible. It just less, moving parts, just a lot of less, even on the sewer side.
And you'll probably stay cooler being submerged.
Which, one of the pictures that we got about when you mentioned that the packing box was not the correct one, the shaft that actually goes to the motor was in an hourglass shape. You know, it was thin in the spot, like quite thin, and we're really kind of lucky it didn't break at the point
From rubbing.
from rubbing.
And then also I'd like to say that they will be here, I think next week, the camera. So if you guys want to see that, see it as well, you guys are more than welcome to come out. I can have Brad get hold of you if anybody wants to do it. It's pretty neat watching the video go down.
We've had one video already that shows before. What we would be approving tonight is a video that would show the after effects. They did the acid wash today as well. And so we did the blasting caps already to help kind of break some of that calcium up, try to hopefully clean that screen up. Did the acid wash today to kind of further that cleaning. And so now we'll have a before and after of that well screen to see what that really does look like.
I'm all for less moving parts.
Any other questions? If not,
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passed 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
What's it cost to rebuild that pump? From that company using one?
With the number for all of that, but, they have a new pump on here.
Yeah, I think the new pump, I think he said the actual motor was shot. That's what he said.
The new motor, 25 horse, would be 4,686.
And so with them unable to rebuild the previous pump, if you were to add that kind of the motor cost on top of it, it would actually come up to more.
It's nobody, it's spare.
The motor, we might be able to use it for, I mean, we don't know where
The other wells are, I mean, those motors are just as old.
it's something that we could definitely look at, that keeping that motor around. I think that's.
Be a good backup.
Yeah.
Consider rebuilding it.
Mhm.
All the other wells.
Instead of rebuilding the pump, just keep the motor for backup.
Mhm.
One of the other wells.
Because Hansberry looks just like it almost. I mean, those motors.
They're all very similar in horsepower as far as the wells go.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 3, the controlled burn request.
Yes, ma'am, this is, we can call this property up off North Fourth Street. We ask for every year, he asks for it to be burned. One thing that I failed to send an email is that last year, resident to the south asked us to burn his, and got a separate one. Not remember his name or his address. But they're adjoining fields, so I just thought I'd go ahead and get that, just in case he wants us to burn it.
Is it James's?
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
Is there a fee for controlled burns? How many firemen do you normally have out for controlled burn?
Varies. This year is a little different. We've worked with, Andy. There's been instances in the state, county, nation that fire departments have been out, done controlled burns, got away from them, damaged personal property. Now we have a waiver for that person to sign. Now, when it comes to being reimbursed for it, we do not ask for a reimbursement for it. Most of the time, there's a donation to the fire department. And generally speaking, it is a good training exercise for us. This year, we have 4 people on the list to do control burns for. We're not making special arrangements for that now. We have fire meetings on the first and third Mondays of the month. If the weather is permissible, we will go out there. If it is not, we'll wait for the next one. It is just a hassle to try and get a group of guys rounded up on Wednesday at 5:30 to go burn. So you get them all there for a fire meeting, come on.
So the first and third
Those are our meeting times,
Wednesdays
Mondays.
or Mondays?
Yeah. At 6:30.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the fire department to conduct a controlled burn at 1011 North Fourth and Steve James
Property is,
709 or something like that.
yeah.
Is there a second?
Whenever they find their willingness.
Second. Moving a second to approve the fire department to conduct a controlled burn. Any further discussion? Not?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pass 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other communications? Anything else, Brad?
No, nothing to add in communications.
Moving on to governing body comments. Chief, since you're here, I just wanted to, comment on, I think it was last week when I come over the hill and I see 2 fire, vehicles and bunch of firemen out in front of my house because there was a gas leak. The only reason I wanted to comment on that is that it would have not been an exciting adrenaline type call, and yet you had plenty of people out there, just to make sure everything's okay, and I think that speaks a lot for the guys you have on the department and the leadership as well, so.
Thank you.
And it's fixed now, by the way.
Yeah, good. I have heard that. There's no more smell of gas, so.
Not what you want to do when you come pulling over and there's people right there. It's like, this is not good. But I said, and it's also kind of a neat thing, because they're young guys and they're out there, like I said, for something that wasn't even an exciting call, so. Kudos to the fire department, so. Dave, anything?
I don't have any.
Tom?
Yeah, I'd like to just thank the guys. They took me on a tour. One Friday was the sewer plant, and last Friday was all the wells and the water treatment facility. It's very informative. Thank you. I appreciate that.
It does help to put pictures, I mean, we always try to target stuff to know that, hey,
Yes.
and, I mean, yeah, Dominic did that for me for the sewer department one time, and that was, I had no idea what all that stuff was.
Mhm.
I still don't know much, but I know that, so. Brian?
It's pothole season. I know Brad's working on that, so just have everybody relax that we'll get there, so.
You're also gonna start working on the signs.
Yeah, so we have been in discussion with that. Dominic and I last week, we've been in discussion about that for a while. Yeah, so that is a plan for this week to get started on some signs. I believe there was some potholes that got filled today, I think. And then in the plan is to start working on the final signs that we have.
There is a pedestrian sign that's down, I think, in the 200 block of East Iowa. It really needs to be prioritized. You've got the skate park where it points toward the skate park. And then there's a pedestrian sign that should be there that it's not. Signs going clear over. It's kind of a liability with the sign being gone.
Okay, we will get to that, yes.
Anything else, Laura?
I plan on trying to schedule some time to get a tour of everything. I'll be doing that pretty soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to the project and budget workshop.
A second.
Moving second for discussion. Aye. Motion passes 5-0.